Alan Smithee, entrepreneur, socialite, all-round ladies' man. His films were universally loved. At the height of his power, he was considered to be invincible. He was not. Sadly, Hollywood could take no more, and Alan Smithee was banished to television. However, he swore he would return, and with his vile, subpar taste and opinion, he would get his revenge. This is his revenge.
Hello and welcome to the Alan Smithee Show. We're back again, Timothy and I.
In the vintage location. Vintage studio set from our very first audiovisual
for those hardcore fans, this is, yes, of course, a familiar set.
Yeah, absolutely. And on today's program, we'll be reviewing Ralph Fiennes' directorial debut, Coriolanus, which is based on the play by this William Shakespeare film.
Yeah, something like that. We'll also be having a quick look at a new comedy about cancer, would you believe it? And it's sitting quite on the fence, so we'll be looking at 50-50.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Well, you will be.
Oh.
You will be, and I will quiz you about it.
He sure will.
But I think that the best possible course would be to just go in.
First up, we just got to say a special thank you to our new cameraman. We ditched our old man, Andrew. We've just felt his condition was getting too much.
We bypassed Andrew for this episode, and we're auditioning 3 books.
Yes.
And we really hope that the 3 books can band together and give us some good product. I think that they're doing a good job so far, and I'm really happy with them so far.
Oh, it's an exciting prospect.
Absolutely.
My name is Caius Marcius Coriolanus.
Yes, Coriolanus is based on the play by William Shakespeare. It's about Roman senators and Roman generals and consuls and all these sorts of people. And basically, it's a all-conquering Roman general. Isn't very good with his PR. That would basically be what you say, and he upsets the people, and the people kick him out. So he goes and teams up with the people that he was fighting, the rebels, and then he comes back to Rome and tries to conquer all, and all this kind of thing. And there's all these machinations. It's all political machinations kind of thing. A bit like Julius Caesar. It's cut from the same cloth. It's a little bit more complex in some ways, and then in some other ways not.
He's more of a hero of the people as such, as in terms of his achievements.
Absolutely. But it's a part of Shakespeare's series of Roman plays, and it hasn't been done as a film. I can't think of a film of it that has been as high profile as this.
No, that's right. It's
absolutely.
Not one of his better known plays.
No, it's not. It's not your garden variety.
Surprisingly, one of his more favoured among the critics.
Yeah, they like the cut of Coriolanus' jib. But this is Ralph Fiennes' first film as director, and he decided to set the film, instead of in Roman times, in a Roman situation, he has decided to set it in modern-ish times, modern warfare. It's still Rome, but it's sort of an approximation of Rome. It's very much the urban warfare of today, calling to mind Iraq and
especially a lot of the wars that were going on during the 90s in Eastern Europe.
Absolutely, that sort of thing. Basically, look, on a fundamental level, I do actually have a problem with this idea of taking Shakespeare and putting it in a modern setting, and I must specify that isn't in general. I'm not going to cast the blanket over everything and say, no, you can't do it, and retain Shakespeare's dialogue as Fiennes does. But what I think is a problem is that Shakespeare's plays are, by design, they're plays. They are overly dramatic, they're hysterical, there's a lot of shouting and screaming and hullabaloo, and what Fiennes tries to do is put that in the real world. And that can work to a degree, but it can't work when you have people constantly going on diatribes. It just doesn't fit. You've got chalk and cheese. You've got the setting is one thing, and what they're saying and how they're behaving is the other. I mean, it would be like trying to put Goodfellas in a magical fantasy land, of gumdrop rainbows and things like. Well, not quite that, but if you know what I mean. Good. That is the main sticking point for me with the film, and it makes it hard to engage with the rest of the film. Personally, I thought that the performances were very strong, by and large. I mean, there are a few that are a bit furry, but Vanessa Redgrave as Coriolanus' mother, Ralph Fiennes himself. I thought Gerard Butler did a very good job, or a pretty good job as far as
he punched well above his weight.
Yeah, he did. He acted well, so therefore that. And I thought that Brian Cox was actually pretty impressive. I was scared of him at first. He was a bit fruity, a bit out there, but
Now you speak of fruity. Now I think one of the big problems of this gritty landscape, Timothy, you were talking about, was the consistency within it. I mean, we opened up with a, albeit clunky, but very, very gritty and very, very sort of brutal introduction to the character of Coriolanus, and then straight into a big action sequence in which you show what a leader and what a military figure he is, and it's quite brutal and quite violent. But then you get to these politicians who challenge him, and one of them in particular played by James Nesbitt, and they're just so cartoonish and out of this world.
They're very Shakespearean characters. That does not fit at all, though.
No.
That is a very good.
It's that consistency of
what
the
I'm
playing
talking
field.
about. Yeah. You've got characters and behaviours that don't fit within that world, or at least not that world as it's presented by Ralph Fiennes. And he uses Barry Ackroyd, who's Paul Greengrass's cinematographer, very gritty, handheld style. Also did the Hurt Locker for the Catherine Bigelow. No, just for Catherine Bigelow, not the Catherine Bigelow. Well, she is the But so you have this disparity of all these elements, and I don't think it fits. Now, this feels like more of a personal opinion, so it feels like a cop-out, but I just sense that it doesn't necessarily make life easier, and I can see why. Well, you're making a commentary. Well, Shakespeare's stuff is still relevant today. Yeah, that's amazing, but you'd still get that if it was set in Roman times.
Now, to be fair, for his directorial debut, I think Ralph Fiennes has got a great eye. He's got a lot of iconic imagery in there. I mean,
I wouldn't say iconic,
not iconic, but it could be like it's
memorable
imagery. Memorable imagery. I mean, just the shots of Fiennes himself with the blood-stained face, or when he's got his special, I won't give it away, but his special throne that he uses towards the end, and these sort of setups. I mean, they're genuinely memorable images that strike and
brave ideas. Brave ideas, we'll call them.
He didn't hold back.
No, absolutely.
He was very ambitious.
It's very ambitious.
Unfortunately, I think the ambition kind of lost a lot of the scope as well. So he uses familiar tropes throughout the film instead of developing, evolving, or alternating ways in which the story is progressed. One good example is his constant use of returning back to the media. So a lot of the story is told or reiterated through news stories that you'll often see around the set, or is mentioned by characters, or even watched by characters. And I just thought it happened a little too much to be more than just become a fallback for him, a lazy. And that might be the fault of John Logan, who did the screenplay.
Maybe. Yeah.
It might be. So that could be it. But I just felt if you're going to do clever stuff like that. Clever stuff like it has to develop. There has to be a point to it, more than just a fallback or a means of reiterating to the audience what they've already just seen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree that you can introduce a few ideas, but that doesn't give you carte blanche for the rest of the film. You can't just say, well, I did these things at the start, therefore the rest of the film gets off scot-free. No, well, quite the opposite. If you introduce interesting things, the expectation is on the film to keep on bringing, keep it coming. He does some things. It just stagnates.
I'm probably being a bit too harsh on it there, but
I think that. Look, personally, I think it's a 3 James Nesbitt impersonations of Peter Capaldi out of 5.
I'll give it 2 embarrassing Vanessa Redgrave Oscars speeches.
2.
I felt the 2 were worthy for the acting performances, but I just felt there was too much clunkiness. The second half of the film really fell away once he's on his character path. It just
I think it slows down.
It slows down, but it's not that it slows down, but it loses the momentum that it was relying on so much in the first half, and that really detracts us as viewers. I'm probably being a bit harsh on it, but I really wanted more out of the film, and it left me sourly disappointed from the expectations it set up in the opening 10 minutes.
Well, fair enough, Jed. I'm not going to argue with that. And yes, that was Coriolanus.
I think you're making a big mistake.
What?
Don't do this.
What are you talking
Please
about?
don't do this.
You said you liked this
You're gonna
idea.
look stupid,
You
man.
said you would do it.
You're gonna look weird.
Come on, let's just do it. Wait a minute. What do you use these for?
My body.
Well, that was certainly one for the fence sitters, Timothy. That's a clip from the new film 50-50. starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Seth Rogen and young Anna Kendrick.
Yes.
Rising star.
Absolutely. Rising Star Award.
She's one
yep.
to definitely keep an eye on.
Absolutely. It's directed by Jonathan Levine and of the Wackiness fame.
The Wackiness.
And he also did a film called All the Boys Love Mandy Lane. I saw that film recently.
Yeah.
And let us never speak of it again. But I did not see this, Jared. You did.
No,
now,
yes.
tell me about...
Now, this is a film about... focuses primarily on the character played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Adam. Now, he has a sort of a tentative relationship with his girlfriend, played by Bryce Dallas Howard.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear. And his friend Seth Rogen is a tail chaser, and there's not much more to his life. He's a bit of a Seth Rogen. He, if you've ever seen any film produced by Judd Apatow, this is the same Seth Rogen character, more or less.
He's sort of a nice guy who's jocular and rotund.
Yeah, and he can be accused of being a bit sexist or whatever people call it.
Yeah, a bit of a chauvinist.
But a bit of a chauvinist, but no more than any of his other films. And, that's part of the character. It's not actually saying that what he's saying is right, it's just his character. Anyway, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, one day suddenly he starts complaining of back pain and dizziness. Before you know it, he finds out he's got a rare form of cancer on his spine. Now, this, as you can imagine, is not good news for him. As once looking it up on the internet, he finds out he has a 50% probability of surviving, thus the title of the film. Yes. And so what follows is his process as he goes through the different parts of his life, just trying to deal with this cancer. And his girlfriend, Bryce Dallas Howard, while they were having a clunky relationship, she swears allegiance to him and says she'll stick by him. And we watch the dissipation of that relationship and the way his lovable friend Seth Rogen tries to use his cancer as a way of chasing skirt, basically, getting a few girls out of it. Sympathy.
Well, why not?
Yeah, and so it's funny because you say this and you think, oh, this sounds like a bizarre thing. It's played out as a comedy, but not a ripped snorter. It's more of a lighter comedy with moments
of sort of a gentle, with a bit of blackness about it.
There is definitely a bit of blackness, and that's not to say the content isn't upped and a bit more on the raunchy side. But we've also got Anna Kendrick, who we mentioned before. She plays a 24-year-old psychiatrist who hasn't yet achieved her doctorate and is actually working as Adam's therapist, and so he's quite uncomfortable with that, and we slowly see the relationship between those two grow over the course of his cancer as he slowly gets to the point where all this is of course leading to a final surgery in which either he lives or dies, more or less. And then there's also his mother, Adam's mother, played by Angelica Houston, who's in fine form. May I say in this film, this is
John Huston's daughter.
Yeah, well, look, she stands out above the rest in this film for sure, and she's a woman dealing with her son, who's of course Adam, played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who's basically ignoring her, and her husband who's suffering Alzheimer's. So she's quite a sympathetic figure in this film. Now it's a funny film because it really, the cancer feels like less of a focus on the film than it does about each of the characters' repression and about the dishonesty of themselves, yet the honesty in everything they do. Right. And for that, I think the film's to be commended on the consistency on that theme through all the characters. Each of them has a way you can look at it and go, well, actually, that's quite a...
That's good.
Yeah,
good film to do those
things.
And
the further you get through this film, the less poignant it becomes. And I mean, I say that by what you usually get with a film about cancer. And even when it's a comedy, there's the highs and the lows, and you've got a lot of melodrama and a lot of overt, over-explanation on their feelings and all that.
Yeah,
they give away too much. And this goes quite in the opposite direction. And it tries to keep Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character as repressed as possible and as bland as possible, really. They try to deliberately keep his character as simple and
that doesn't sound like a very good idea.
No, but look, to Joseph Gordon-Levitt's credit, it works off. He's able to pull out the charm without making his character too
He's a very talented
he's a very talented man, and look, he's to be commended for this role as well, while that's shone by Angelica Houston's points. It's quite good. I found especially the ending, which I'll not give away, but I found that to be, again, disappointing. Now, this is based on a true story.
Yeah.
I say based, it's actually written by the guy who went through the ordeal. So it's written by the guy who had the cancer.
Yes.
So there's a bit of a personal touch to it, which, of course, doesn't negate any criticism of it. It just brings a new light to where he was trying to head with the purpose of the film. It doesn't seem to quite fit with where the film's leading you, and so the latter parts of the films do fall apart a bit, and ultimately disappointing in that this comedy film never really reaches a point of satisfaction. I feel it just becomes too normal and it seems he took a cheap way.
Too pat.
Yeah.
What would you put it on the scoring scale? Where would you put it?
Scoring scale. Now it's a hard one. I don't want to be too harsh on it because I did find myself actually enjoying it a lot through the middle parts of the film and about it was only about towards the end, about an hour and 10-20 minutes into it where I started thinking, actually, so for that alone I'd give it 3.5. I think it's actually well worth the view. I did enjoy a lot of the characters. I was surprised for the first half hour because it feels like these are all genuinely likeable characters, and that's not very often, especially in dark comedies, Timothy.
No.
And I found they were likeable without forcing the likeableness on the audience. It wasn't. They're amazing. It's just they're very. No.
So it's a decent but flawed.
It's decent
piece
but
of
flawed.
work.
It's decent, but it could have been so much more, and it wasn't. And that's
disappointing. That's true.
Yeah,
but it
disappointing.
is.
But
you would say it is at least worthwhile.
it's at least worthwhile. And now this will be on limited release in Australia.
All right.
As far as I know, it's only been shown in cinemas like the Nova or.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have thought it would have got a bit more of a release than that.
Nothing in the mainstream releases of Hotel Village, as far as I've researched. So that's a bit of a disappointment. But
there you go. I'm very surprised. You learn something every day. I learned nothing from your review and everything from the fact that it's only playing. No, I'm only.
No, it's got.
Serious.
If you look over the critical board, it's got a genuine positive response. Most critics have seen
it was supposed to be a contender for best original screenplay for Will Reiser. Was it one of those ones floating around there?
I think that much like the other film we reviewed, Coriolanus, maybe too ambitiously hyped up before its release and promised a lot more than it gave out in the end. So.
Thank you. Well, thank you for that, Jared. That was very good. Fine work that you've summed up there. And will that be the termination?
Yeah, I believe that is.
We'll just do it short and sweet, basically. And we will return at some point in the distant past.